The Bob Dwyer Fishing Club was founded in 1970 after the passing of its namesake, Bob Dwyer Sr., in December of 1969. The founding members of the club, inspired by their love of trout fishing in the Catskill Mountains, the camaraderie that existed amongst the group, and the desire to recognize Bob Dwyer Sr. for his part in bringing these men together, established a club that has taught the art of trout fishing and, through its fellowship, positively impacted the lives of its members and their families for what is now generations. These 12 men, encouraged by the efforts of Patrick Grimes, laid the foundation of the current BDFC activities, including the BDFC annual trout competition. In 1984, the club was officially incorporated in the state of New York with the following mission: to promote the sport of trout fishing, protect wildlife, and perpetuate the qualities of fellowship and mutual goodwill that were the pillars of the formation of the club in 1970. The annual Bob Dwyer Trophy was awarded to the largest trout caught by a BDFC member during the course of each trout fishing season, out of the streams in the Catskill Mountains that Bob Dwyer Sr. would have fished. This region covered a wide section of the Catskills. In 1970, the Bob Dwyer Trophy was presented to Rick Dwyer for his 15 3/4-inch brown trout caught out of Bryant Brook, a tributary to the Platicle River. In 1983, the BDFC recognized the contributions to the club by Perry Dimmick by creating the Perry Dimmick Trophy for the largest brook trout caught during a season by one of the BDFC club members. In his first year, Len Winstanley and Joe Librera tied with a 14-inch brook trout. In 1998, the Ray Williams Trophy was created in remembrance of Ray's longtime commitment to the club and its members. The Ray Williams Trophy is presented each year to the club member that catches the largest trout during the specified BDFC Club Fishing Week, normally the last week of September. The first recipient was Robbie Dwyer with a 20.5-inch brown trout. Historical diaries of the Bob Dwyer Fishing Club are intended to record the club's history in the words of its members, through the stories of the men who were at its origins. The diaries hope to preserve, for our current and future members, the legacies of these fishermen and the spirit and camaraderie which are at their core. The first chapter, The Early Days, recounts the time up until the club's inception. We will begin with the life of the club's namesake, Bob Dwyer Sr., and his love for fishing. Bob Dwyer Jr., his wife Sandy, John Dwyer and his wife Shelley, and Ricky Dwyer have shared their remembrances of those years. Bob Dwyer Sr. was born and raised in Binghamton, New York, and there he married Rita Ann Scott in 1934. And he fathered 5 children: Bob Jr., Diane, Sally, John, and Ricky. He's from the Tri-Cities. The Dwyers were Binghamton.
Actually, Johnson City, yeah. Johnson City.
Well,
we were born in Binghamton.
yeah.
And your dad as
My
well?
dad was born in Binghamton, yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So we pretty much all of us were born in Binghamton, but Rick and Diane born in Binghamton? I don't know. But anyway, we moved to Johnson City in 1947, so I think all of us were born except Rick by then. So.
Well, yeah, Rick wasn't born then.
Bob Sr. spent some time away from his family while serving in World War II.
He was gone a number of years there, right up to VJ Day. He came home on Halloween after VJ Day. That's when he came home.
He probably went in when war first started.
He
Like
probably did, yeah.
our
No, he didn't go in right at the
Oh,
beginning.
wait a minute. He did. Now, let me tell you. I was born in 1941. Remember, I was premature. This is John Dwyer speaking. I didn't want you to think it was Sandy.
And he was really premature.
But anyway, my father was in the Pacific then. Now listen. No, because Mother had me way before I was due. And the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor
Over that?
on December 7th. I was born on December 10th. The Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7th.
Mhm.
And my mother pushed me out, so to speak, whatever it was. She had me, 4 months, Shelley? Before I was due to be born.
That early.
Now
So
listen,
that's what happened.
I only weighed, 2.5 pounds?
yeah. Well, if you want to get into
Ooh, you're a big boy now.
Now listen, I spent a whole year in the hospital, in an incubator. Whatever type of incubator I had back then.
The eggshell.
And my Aunt Jean, who was a naval nurse,
She was in the service
she
too.
came home at one point in time, an Army nurse, she came home at one point in time to take care of me. She wound up being, the administrator of Wilson Memorial Hospital, this teaching school with all the nurses there. She was in charge of it. But, so now that's December of 1941.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I can't comment.
And I think Dad was gone then, and that's why Mother had prematurely had me because of the attack
We'll
on
never
Pearl
be able
Harbor.
to prove it, will we?
But because of the attack on Pearl Harbor, it caused her to,
See, I
deliver
thought
me.
I thought Dad ended up going in after
Yeah.
at December 7th, after
Okay.
the start of what I call the war.
But that's
'Cause
all.
we hadn't declared war yet.
But all I can say is that might be what caused her to have me so soon. But
What you say
It all
makes
enters in,
sense, but I didn't think I thought Dad went in after we declared war on Japan.
now Dad was on the USS. What was it now? The
Missouri.
Missouri.
Big
He was on the USS Missouri with MacArthur when the Japanese signed the surrender documents. Now, how was that? That's pretty interesting.
Okay.
And they dressed up, because they didn't have enough officers on board, they dressed him up as an officer on the ship. And he was in the row of officers that were standing there during the signing of the Declaration of Peace.
And the sad part is when we were in Hawaii, we went on to Missouri. But we didn't know all of this.
We didn't know that because he never talked about it.
You know,
Really?
He never talked
and I
about
said,
it.
what an opportunity missed, right?
Right.
And all of the stuff he brought back with him.
Yeah.
Japanese helmets,
Flags.
rifles with bayonets on them,
A real Japanese, right? I don't know how the hell he brought all that stuff back.
hand grenades, and he had pistols, and he brought so much stuff, flags with all the guys signed it that were in his company.
Did he ever talk to you guys about it?
Never.
Because he never talked to me
I
about
think
it.
it was-
I spent a
it
long
was-
time with that man.
It was probably...
But worse than all of that, where is that stuff?
I know it, yeah.
And that aggravates the hell out of me.
Well,
No,
I don't know whatever happened to him.
I don't either.
So that's how you caught so many fish. The Japanese grenades, huh?
yeah.
But
And
it's
the sword he
unbelievable what
had.
he brought home. And he brought all these silk kimonos or whatever I don't know what they call them all. But
Come on.
yeah, but all of this stuff back from Japan in his duffel
We had
bag.
a ton of stuff down cellar.
I know it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes. So,
Yeah, we had an interesting cellar.
but I remember him coming home, and I'm telling you, it was on
Halloween.
Halloween.
I
Yeah.
don't remember
Yeah.
coming home, no.
We lived at 1 Jefferson Avenue in Endicott, which is right around the corner from one of the main drags. I remember during the war that I used to have to go over and stand in the bread lines and get bread.
EJ.
Right, yeah.
EJ,
yeah.
Endicott Johnson supplied it.
You do?
Yeah.
You couldn't have been very old.
I was standing in the bread line, yeah, at some point in time. Now, how old was I, 2 or 3? I don't know.
Must have been with somebody.
Yeah. No, but I remember
You,
going
you
over
were
there.
by yourself.
Yeah. It was right across the street from her house. There wasn't that many automobiles
Well,
back then.
just down to
Yeah.
where the road that goes up.
Yeah.
What's the one that goes up on the
Yeah,
knob? there?
Oak Hill Avenue or
Oak
whatever
Hill.
it is. Yeah,
Corner of Oak Hill and
yeah. And it was
North
right around
Street.
right around the corner from us
Fishing.
there.
Yeah, back
Yeah.
to fishing.
Well, this is all good history.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool. And
Okay, so now Tom Kerr.
Keeping it straight.
the one last thing. He would have been then what age when he got back from the war?
He was born in 1913. So he got back, BJ Day was 1943? I think. Yeah. So he'd be, 30?
30.
Yeah.
Okay.
They took anybody at any time.
Yeah.
You're saying the war was over in 43?
That was 45.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
45.
Yeah.
Okay, 45. All right.
32.
Yeah.
So, early 30s, yeah.
And his wife was home with all these children. So it wasn't an easy time.
No,
It was tough being the oldest.
Yeah. Yeah. He was dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mom was mom.
And did mom have to work, or what? During the
Gosh,
war,
I-
what did she?
I don't know how
I'm
she
not,
could have worked with all you kids.
Yeah.
My mother didn't.
I don't think.
I don't know how we got by. I really don't.
Geez, I don't either. Honest to God,
Yeah.
that was tough.
I can tell you, we had an ice box. You know, I still call it an ice box. But we had an ice box, and the wagon would come by, and the horses would draw the wagon, and the ice would be in the wagon in sawdust. And we would take the ice upstairs and put it in the ice box. And the ice box had a compartment in the top that you put the block of ice in. And all us kids, we used to chase down the.
You're not telling her anything.
Yeah. But these are experiences that you probably have never had.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are really interesting.
And a milk truck. I guess.
Dad had a black vehicle, a flat roof on it, and one of those round trunks. And he used to wash it and then wipe it down with oil. You remember that?
I don't remember him wiping it with oil. No.
Yeah, a real fine film of oil.
Why? I would
To
just
make it
collect
shine. To make it shine.
Oh my God, that would make it.
Oh, I know it. Yeah. But that was in the driveway there on Jefferson Avenue. Do you remember looking out?
Were you drinking at that age? I know he had a fetish for black cars. That's for sure. Of course, I got one myself.
Oh, so don't I.
Yeah.
Bob Sr. was fishing in those days while living in Endicott.
Let me ask, how did your father first find these streams? I mean, did he just kind of like...
I guess he just had fishing in his blood when he was younger, and I think when he came back from World War II, he just got more into it. And I think he fished with, didn't that guy Tinklepaw, his name was, live across the street? Didn't they go fishing a couple times?
Yeah.
So they found all the streams. I mean,
Yeah, well,
they all came from you.
Oh, you have to understand. Listen, my father was on the construction crew for the Cannonsville Dam,
Oh!
and he knew, as a result of being down there.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with that one.
Well, okay, he worked
Whitney,
down there.
It was Whitney Point Dam that he worked on completely.
Yeah.
And that's obviously a different dam, but he met a lot of different people that I think got him interested in doing some of that trout fishing farther. His first big hangout was Downsville.
Yeah.
And after that, then it got, you try the East Branch, and then all of a sudden you try the West Branch. And next thing we know, we were in Bovina Center, and then we ended up over in Vegas. And,
But I thought he was involved somewhat in some of those dams, those New York City water supply dams.
he wasn't with the Cannonsville, though. Other than we fished the hell out of the river before they built it.
Could it be Downsville?
Huh?
Could have been Downsville?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Downsville was built before Cannonsville.
Okay, so that might have been the one.
But he worked originally on the one at Whitney Point, yeah.
But I do think he had some involvement in the construction.
It wasn't
of
Cannonsville, I know that.
Yeah, okay, Downsville then.
Maybe it was the
Yeah, stand corrected on that. So, but I do remember him talking to me about it. So,
But Downsville was his big hangout there for
yeah,
when.
and that's why then.
Yeah, could very well be.
So we fished a lot of those streams around Downsville. There's a lot of the streams that come in and all that kind of stuff.
I can remember living in Endicott, New York on North Street. We lived above Galante's grocery store.
Market, yeah.
And my dad was a trout fisherman in those days as well. And I'm talking when I was like 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. We finally moved to Johnson City when I was 12. So, but I remember many a time, and I even have some pictures somewhere of some nice trout that my dad would catch, and then we would go out on the roof over the front of the grocery store and take his picture when he would bring him home. Now, at that time, he was doing most of his fishing down around Downsville, in that area, Margarettsville. We never went too many times at that age. Shortly after that, we started.
So what age did you start? 15?
No, I would say, right away. I mean, I would think when we moved to Johnson City and when I was 12, I would say that right after that we started going fishing with them.
Which was 1947 when we moved to Johnson City.
Okay.
Yeah.
After moving to Johnson City, Bob Dwyer Sr. began to make some friends with some fellow fishermen from the area, including Len Hoffman and Perry Dimmick. At the same time, the Dwyer boys were getting of the age that they could make those trips to the Catskills with their dad.
Always remember when we would get ready to try and make a trip to the Catskills. Dad never had much of a car, but we could never leave town without having a couple of spare tires.
Inner tubes.
because we always had a flat tire. At least one before we got down there and got back.
And how long did it take to get to Margaretville?
We would leave at 1 o'clock in the morning. 1 o'clock in the
We
morning.
would try to do that so that we were always there at the break of dawn. I know a lot of people don't believe that when I tell them that.
Now, we had a Model A Ford, and we had to put it in reverse and back up over Tuscarora Mountain because you got more seriously. We backed up over Tuscarora Mountain to get over the mountain and back down the other side.
That's the other side of Windsor, between Windsor and Deposit. And
Did you have windshields?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
square
No
ones.
seatbelts.
No wipers though. I would sit on the hood.
Yeah, right. But anyway, I don't have a tremendous recall for exactly where we even went.
How long would that drive be today, Johnson City to Margaretville?
It's I call it a 90-mile ride.
Okay, so an hour and a half.
So, and I also remember the one time that we went to Bovine the Center, and it was when Leonard Hoffman was now fishing with us. And
Now, explain Leonard Hoffman. Leonard Hoffman, when we lived on Ackley Avenue, Leonard Hoffman had a grocery store kitty corner from us, and he was a butcher. And he had the private grocery store for the neighborhood. Nothing like the supermarkets we have today.
and he loved to fish, and he always caught some nice fish. He always would end up taking his car, but he would never drive. Everybody else had to drive his car for him because he would always sleep on the way down.
Okay, so Leonard Hoffman was the big cog, being the grocer across the street, the butcher. And we got involved with him and playing cards and all that kind of stuff. He was a great guy, his wife, Florence. And we'd go over and have cocktail hour at his house and all that kind of stuff in later years and watch, what was the good TV show, him and her, the Jack Lemmon and The Odd Couple. He loved The Odd Couple. So we would go over to the house.
They were the odd couple.
Yeah, they were.
This man could snore like no man almost you've ever heard of. I think he would challenge Lenny Winstanley.
Yeah.
If you can imagine that.
Well, I
And
worked.
how the hell she ever slept with him?
I don't know.
We always, when we went to any farmhouse, we had to put him in the furthest room away from everybody. Unbelievable. And he could fall asleep like that. Unbelievable.
Now,
But he also had what else? He had a sweet tooth.
oh yeah, every bakery.
And he had one that was, to him, was the one we had to stop at every time. And it was in
Walton.
Walton. Right in the middle of town. he'd say, pull over. And he'd go in there and he'd come out with about 3 bags of all kinds of donuts and jelly donuts and you name it, right?
Yeah, everything was wonderful. Cream cake.
Boy, it was good stuff too in that bakery. That bakery's not there anymore.
But you don't have bakeries like that anymore. Mm-mm.
But Leonard was the kind of guy. Leonard didn't like to work too hard fishing, so he would find out. I think he might be a shirt tail relative of Dimmick.
Now I'm going to tell you how that connects.
They don't like to walk very far, so they know where all the big holes are, though. Leonard would take a little bigger hook and put at least 2, maybe 3 night walkers on it, and with a lot of weight, and lob it right out in the middle of the hole, and just sit there.
He must always fished the West Branch. He was the original fisherman in the West Branch. Mm-hmm. And he would stay at, what's the name of the tavern there? Where we had our club meetings?
Hidden in.
Hidden in.
Him and his wife would get a room upstairs.
He and his wife would go down, and they would stay over at the hotel, and then she would drop him off at the stream, and then at a certain time she would come up and pick him up.
Yep.
Same spot? Did he
No. He
He'd go a couple holes.
Yeah. But he never had to walk back. So that's the way it was. And he would just fish, and he would just fish
keep the
big
worm,
holes.
keep the worm working a little bit, and then lob it back up.
And he used to catch some big trout.
Yep. He never caught what you would say was a lot of fish, but he caught quality fish. And that's kind of what Dimmicks do now. Mm-hmm. They know where all the holes are. And like they say, they don't even put hip boots on anymore. They just go to the hole and lob a worm out.
But I used to work at Hoffman's grocery store. And Leonard and my father would go fishing, and I would be stuck running the store. I was only 12 years old.
When Leonard was in a lot of trouble.
I ate very well. I was in charge of produce. They had some beautiful purple plums, and I always got some cold cuts out of the meat cabinet, so I never did go hungry. But anyway, he could not wait until I got my driver's license. Every year he bought a brand new Mercury.
Yep.
Always had a brand new Mercury every year. And he couldn't wait for me to get a driver's license so I could take him down to Trout Brook. And we went down quite often.
Walton?
No, Trout Brook in Quagga.
Yeah.
Right, just below Quagga, Deposit.
Yeah.
And I would drive, and like Bob said, he would fall asleep immediately upon getting in the car. And I had to wake him up when we got to the stream. And then we'd fish our stretches and come back to the car, and he would fall asleep immediately, and I would drive him home. We're still talking maybe a little bit before Rick was born, when we're talking Leonard Hoffman. And then Perry Dimmick and Leonard Hoffman and Bob Dwyer used to go fishing a lot together, the 3 of them.
Okay.
And the way Leonard Hoffman Perry Dimmick got involved in this was because Leonard Hoffman, being a butcher, knew Perry Dimmick, because Perry Dimmick was a butcher for a grocery chain, which I think was Giant Supermarket. Was it Giant?
They were there then.
Yeah, Giant.
Still are, actually.
Yeah, it's a big super chain in the Triple Cities, and he was a butcher for them, and that's how the 2 of them got to meet each other, because they were in the same trade. Mm-hmm. And they befriended each other, and they went fishing, and my father went with them as well. So I never really did fish much at all with Perry Dimmick.
No.
It always seems though
I never did.
Really. They all went together, and I just never got involved in that one.
They didn't ask you?
No, I guess not. I always got the night walkers for them though.
While the Dwyers spent many of their weekends up in the Catskills in those early days, Bovina was the center of their operations.
The only guy I can remember that went with us occasionally down there was my dad's brother, Joe's, and his son, Joe Jr. And we used to go up, we would go to Bovina Center and turn up Bramley Mountain Road. And as you come up over the hill, the road divides. You can go to the right or to the left. to the left took us up to the farmhouse I was talking about, and if you went to the right, it just went up. Both of them roads would meet again way up on top of the mountain. But there was a little camping spot that we always went to on the right fork. And that we'd get out, there was a little stream that we used to fool around in. I don't think we ever caught much there, but that was where we would end up
Joe Jr.
throwing stuff down on the ground and sleeping overnight. When we went down one time, we stayed right at the bridge that crosses the Little Delaware in Bovina Center. There's a little field like off to the right, and we went in there and laid down under the stars.
I slept in the trunk of the car.
You might have been in the trunk, but I was on the ground. And about just before daylight, before we got up to go fishing, I looked up and here was this cow's face right in my face and scared the hell out of me. I come up off of that ground, scared everybody else too, including the cow.
Did you mount the call?
No, the cow's still running, I think. What we would do is just start right there at the bridge and fish right up through town, behind the creamery, up through the big swimming hole, all the way up to Warden's posted property up behind the church in the upper part of town. And usually by then we had plenty of trout. And then my dad would make his decision on whether he was going to try and sneak across and fish Warden's property, and I would pick him up on the opposite side by where the cemetery is. And sometimes he made it and sometimes he didn't. And sometimes Warden would take a shot at him out of the back of his barn that was hanging over the field.
So that's the property just below the cemetery?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's that big bend there.
Right from the church all the way
I like
through
that.
that field, yeah.
A lot of nice fish there.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Warden also was an equestrian. And my father was coming up through the stream one day, and Mr. Warden came down on a horseback with a whip. My dad told us about this.
He showed us the welts on his back.
But he never gave up. Another time he was fishing up through there, and Mr. Warden had lawn chairs along the stream, and he and his wife and guests were sitting in the lawn chairs. My father didn't spot them until he was too close, and he had to sit there until dark after they left and went back up to the house. So there has been some very interesting occasions take place on that stretch of the stream.
Amen to that, brother.
And would you go April 1st, whenever season opened?
Absolutely, religiously.
Regardless
Never,
of other
ever.
orders?
Never missed it.
Never missed opening day.
Well, however cold it was, or
Didn't matter.
You had to chip ice sometimes.
Well,
You
yeah,
definitely.
Some opening days, it was just almost impossible to fish.
Yeah.
You know, the tip would just freeze, and you'd have to stick it in the water in order to defrost it.
No, you had to chip the ice out of all your guides.
It was terrible sometimes.
Every few casts you'd have to go chip it up.
And a lot of times, it really wasn't worth going.
Mhm.
Or when the conditions were really bad.
Now, to tell you, this is really amazing. Today, I hardly ever fish the double bridge at Little Delaware, up where we stay, right by Gary's place.
Yep.
And that's the Rock Bridge.
Mhm.
That was my favorite spot to go to on opening day. Boom. I drove all the way to there to fish
Well,
that spot.
We always spread out on the Little Delaware.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, and when you're fishing worms, you can fish nice and slow and just keep working every little nook and cranny. Hell, it was nothing to take a half-mile stretch and fish it for 3-4 hours for trite things. I mean, just you took your time.
But that hole where that stone bridge is, I can remember there arriving there on opening day and having the creek frozen about halfway across the stream from the bridge. That far out from the bridge. But I could throw it up where the running water was and have it go down underneath the ice. And then get a hit, and I could see the trout through the ice as I was bringing it in. So I caught another trout in that hole. That was my favorite hole at that time.
Wonder why.
Yeah. The Little Delaware was always one of our favorite streams.
It was the one we always seemed to fish first.
Yeah.
Always.
Now, I remember the stretch above, what was it, Warren's?
Where?
Warren's on the Little Delaware, just below the...
Yeah, it's now Peter's favorite stretch.
Now, Peter's favorite stretch,
From the cemetery up.
Ah, yeah.
the guy that used to own
Your
that...
son kind of likes that too.
Yes, he does.
The guy that used to own that stretch was Bob Bryden. You remember Bryden?
That's where we stayed in the...
No, Bob Bryden. Yeah, he built a pool hall where Calder Brook comes in. Now, you don't remember that.
We stayed there.
Yeah, years ago. Dad...
Pool hall.
Yeah, listen to this now. He had cattle, and I think the pool hall probably was originally, might have been a dairy house or something, because the stream came down right next to it, Calder Brook, coming into the Little Delaware.
Yep.
And I think he stopped raising cattle at some point in time, and he converted that dairy building into a pool hall.
Yeah, recreation building.
Yeah. And he had pool tables in there, and this is how good of friends we were with him. My father, of course, befriending him first. We would stay in that pool hall and sleep there.
Yep.
And and so that was our place to go, instead of some of the other homes in the area and that type of thing.
And in those days, you not only fished all stretches of the Little Delaware, but we did a lot of fishing on Calder Brook
too. Yeah.
That's how we ended up finding the waterfalls up there and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Caught some beautiful brook trout out of Calder Brook. That Fast Eddie I was telling you about, his father Eddie was my fishing buddy. John knows him very well too. That was his favorite spot to go. The waterfalls on Calder Brook. Always was good for at least one good brook trout.
Yeah. And we took our wives there. It was a good spot for women to catch trout. At the waterfalls.
Fast Eddie and women.
The best stretch was always about when you go to the bridge, and then the next place was called Bob Bryden's, where Calder Brook comes in. After you go around the bend behind that house up through those woods, that was where we always caught the big ones, up through there. Dad went down there one weekend, and he missed this big brown, which I've got pictures of. And I don't know what made me do it. It's the only time I ever did it in my whole life. I was in high school. Simon T, a buddy of mine, had a car, and he wanted to learn how to trout fish. We took off at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's like an hour and a half, 2-hour drive down to Bovina. We drove all the way down there because Dad had told me about that big trout that he missed. I went down and caught it. The day after he'd missed it, drove 2.5 hours after school, or 2 hours, caught that damn trout. You remember seeing the pictures? They had the biggest damn hook jaw you ever seen on it. I got pictures. I had it in the freezer for like 5 years before
I remember you had a big sucker. I remember that.
Yeah. They were playing cards over at Tony Petrino. Diane was married at the time to Tony Petrino. Hoffman, you, and Tony, and Dad, and I don't know, Barney, and everybody was over there. And I brought playing pitch, and it was Monday night pitch game, and I brought the trout over there to show you guys. I caught it.
He threw it in the middle of the card table.
Your dad's favorite hole. Did he have one?
I would say
Or section or whatever.
on the Little Delaware, I would say his favorite hole might be the rock ledges that were behind the church in the upper side of town, just before the Warden property. I can still see today him and I standing there, and we're using minnow rigs, and it was just about time to be able to see good. And him throwing that, he could. I made him cast because he was a better caster by far, and I didn't want to screw up a beautiful hole. Right? Him laying that minnow rig at the head of that hole, jerking it just a little bit as it come down into the hole. That friggin' hole exploded, right?
Well, Bovina.
What a battle we had!
We probably went to Bovina Center before we went anyplace else.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. In fact, fishing the Little Delaware was our primary fishing stream in those days. No question about it.
And we stayed at a farmhouse up on, Bramley Mountain Road? Bramley Brook?
Yep, on the top of Bramley Mountain, there's an old abandoned farm.
Today is abandoned.
Their names were, the last names were Hoyt. Bert Hoyt was the farmer.
Margaret Hoyt was his wife. I think it was Margaret, wasn't it?
I don't remember her name.
Probably there's daughter's names.
There was a bunch of Hoyts. I do know that.
When I used to stay at their house,
They used to ship you out down there in
Listen.
the summertime, didn't
I was a little kid.
they? You did?
I was a little kid.
Yes, you were.
This is how long ago it was.
I know.
They had a wood burning stove.
That's all they had.
Yeah. And I used to sit on the floor and play with the wood
With yourself?
that they had cut up and then put into
Ready to put in the furnace.
Yeah.
Or in the.
So that's how young I was when we first started going down there to.
All their cooking was done with a wood
wood
stove. Yeah.
But that's how young I was when we first started going to Hoyt's
Now we were lucky because
in Havana Center.
anytime we were down there was always in the summertime, so the rooms upstairs weren't too bad.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they might have been a little warm, to be honest with you. But in the mountains, not too bad. But I would hate to have been in that room in the friggin' wintertime. Learn how to finger trout from his son,
I said, let's delete that.
and that
Rewind.
And that was right behind the church up in Havana Center. Remember the church that's up there?
Mhm.
Well,
And
we used to-
that's where Pink Street comes in. And right behind that church, we used to go down there, and he would go down and he would dive in and finger the trout.
well, he most of the fish I recall him and I getting. I used to go down there and stay like a month in the summertime when I was 12, 13, 14 years old. And along with having to take the farmer, Bert Hoyt, a quart of warm beer out to him on his tractor in the afternoon. I do remember that when his son got home from work, we would go in the same stream in front of the house where we used to get all of our redfin minnows. And when that stream goes down towards Bovina Center, if there's a lot of falls and holes, it's not a big stream, but there's a lot of holes and falls, and that's where he took me to finger those fish.
Oh, really? That's Bramley Brook.
Yep, and
And it comes in at the bridge now, where
That's
Bovina
right.
Center, where you turn to go up to Bovina Center.
Mhm.
The
Nice-
bridge before
nice
you
hole.
enter town. That hole
everybody's
right there.
favorite hole on the corner there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I used to fish with the stick. Dad would cut a willow stick and put a line on the end of it. And my sisters and I would fish at a little bridge that had a hole in it up there. And we'd catch chubs and horn days. Every once in a while you get a brookie. So that was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Come back up to McDonald's.
When we stayed there,
Can you do chicken salad or
Bert,
I also
who was the father, and Roy, which was the son,
That's right, right.
I might work. She loves me.
and he got us in there. He said, "All right, we need to go frog gigging."
Remember that, yes.
I'm like, "What the hell is that?" Right? So he showed me this rod that he had with a big line on it and a piece of little red felt hanging off the hook.
Thanks, Joe.
So he said, "But we got to climb the mountain in the back. Go up to where these swampy areas are." Great deer hunting up there, I'm sure. Anyway, we climb these friggin' mountains. We get up there where all this swampy area is. And we go out there, and he says, "All right, I sneak along here." And you look out, and he'd see a frog. He'd reach out with that big long pole
I remember that.
with a little red felt
Froggy.
and shake that red felt right in front of the frog's nose. And that frog would grab it,
You pull it up.
hook him.
Oh,
We went back, and we had the biggest feast on frog's legs.
Really?
And I said, "I can't eat these damn things. Come on." They were delicious.
Yeah.
They really and truly were. I don't know whether you've ever had any.
Nah,
But-
it's some French frog legs, I'm sure.
But I'm telling you, they were. I couldn't believe how good they were. And there was no way I could tell they were anything but
It's like
chicken.
chicken. Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Just as mild as can be. And
So how
some
many would
of
you
them were
catch?
big.
So how many would you catch?
I don't remember exactly how many we caught, but I'll tell you what, it was a pain in the ass cleaning them all. I know that. The hoist left the Bovina Center area, so we had no place there.
We used to stay at
That was
their
before
home.
me. I never
Yeah,
went
that
there.
was before you.
Rick wasn't even born then.
Yep.
And we used to stay downtown Bovina Center at the Hoyt's home.
I did stay there.
First at the farmhouse, the family moved down into Bovina Center.
I did stay there.
Well, they did that when Bert Hoyt died.
Yeah.
And then they didn't stay there that long because then they went to up around Albany there to
They had a little
They
house
went
right
to
across the
Mechanicsville.
Mechanicsburg or something like that.
After Bert died, his wife opened a restaurant at
That's
the
right.
railroad station
I've been there.
in Mechanicsville.
I remember that.
In Albany, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Up towards Albany.
Dad and Mom and I used to go up there.
I used to go up
I
there
remember
all
riding
time,
the
too.
trains and shit and going in that restaurant.
Yeah, they were great people.
I didn't realize that they were the same people that
Yeah.
lived in Bovina Center. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yep, they had the farm way on top of the
I'm
hill.
learning something new here. Yeah, because I never went to that farm, but I did go to the house on the main drag there in Bovina
Well,
Center.
you've seen the house since they've been abandoned, I'm sure.
Now,
Up Bramley Mountain,
Oh, you mean up the farm there?
where the Hoyts were originally from.
I know where it is, but I don't remember the house or not.
The Dwyers spent many years going up to the Hoyts, helping out when they could, and generally enjoying themselves otherwise. And that included lots of fishing in Bovina. But that was not the only place they fished, as we'll see here.
well, you have to understand that in those days we very seldom fished the river. We didn't go to the river because there were so many chubs. And it was tiresome, and we wasted a lot of worms fishing the river with chubs and suckers. So we primarily just fished small streams, like the Little Delaware and a lot of other streams that we don't fish today. I mean, many streams that we don't fish today.
Small streams.
Yeah.
It
Over
was
down
primarily
the hill.
small stream fishing.
Yeah.
Really.
At some point, you talk about the Little Delaware all the time, and that's where you went all the time. But then you must have went to Vegas, and there must have been almost a transformation.
Well, I think before that we started a little bit of fishing on the West Branch more than we did before. We were kind of locked in there at Bovina because of the people we knew and everything else, and then all of a sudden we started going over the mountain and started doing a lot of fishing on the West Branch.
So Hobart down.
In fact, way back, I don't know whether do you ever remember the Tollies from
Oh, yeah.
Bart and his son Donnie, and Dad and I would go down there.
Hey, listen. Bart Natoli was my godfather.
Was he?
Bart and Pansy.
Bart and Pansy.
They were my godparents.
Yep. And no, they
lived up there?
No, they lived in Endicott.
And
So he would be more back into the what we just already talked about era.
So he was another person
So
that would go up.
that's more proof, though, that we did fish the West Branch about the same time. We kind of loved the Little Delaware and some of its little sub.
And a lot of the little streams in the area.
But we did spend a fair amount of time on the West Branch. It seemed like we didn't go over there because there always seemed to be a couple fishermen over there. And we never ran into them on the Little Delaware. But then over the years, we started fishing almost more over there in the West Branch than we do with the Little Delaware.
Or some of the streams coming in, yeah.
From South Court right up? Is that the smaller part of it, or?
Where we really got started was right there at the slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
That was some of the first places I remember fishing are right when the slaughterhouse was in business. You'd start there by the bridge and fish up around the corner.
Some huge fish in there.
And you'd come to this first big pool and it would be all red from the blood from the slaughterhouse.
You could see the blood coming down the hill from the slaughterhouse.
Yep.
And the rats.
No, also.
Well, why wouldn't they be there, right?
The rats.
You had to dodge them babies.
Yeah.
But then you fished down around and headed upstream, and there were all kinds of sometimes you had to walk a little distance to the next good stretch. But there's some wonderful spots up there. We used to be able to drive the car right down there.
I think it was better back then. And the reason being was they didn't do as much dredging Today it's all, they try to control the high water situations and all that. And they've dredged a lot of the stream over the years. And I think back then they didn't do a lot of dredging, so it didn't ruin.
But you know,
I tell you that one of Dad's favorite streams, or one of the streams we loved to fish back then, was Rose's Brook.
Okay.
Oh yeah, remember that hole on the bend over there where you and me and Hoffman? Hoffman sat in the car because it was raining too hard. Me and you and Dad went down there.
I know, we used to spend.
what's that say?
Rose's Brook.
But Rose's Brook was one of our favorite
Rose
streams.
Brook. You don't say roses, it says a rose.
Should have brought it.
No S on the end of it. We called it roses, but it says Rose Brook.
Yeah,
Which makes sense. Small stream right off.
That's
the,
it. That's
It's
it.
like the Little Delaware, but in that time was better fishing.
That
Well,
is
the-
a picture of
Yeah,
where we
shorter
did
though,
most
right?
of our
It's
fishing.
back when we still fished
Well-
small streams.
There were still other areas of the Catskills that the Dwyers frequented. They made many trips into the Roscoe area, Eastbrook, around Walton, Peaksville. Let's hear about some of the stories from there.
Dad and I used to meet Tommy Kerr at the Parkville Diner, and we'd get down to along the stream, and they'd be sitting on the rocks with their bottle of scotch, and I'd go over and fill their drinks up with water out of the creek. And that wasn't a very clean creek either.
What was in that creek?
It was Little Delaware. I mean, the little wait a minute. Little Beaver Kill. It was called the Little Beaver Kill.
I'll give you. I'll give
It
you.
went up through Livingston Manor, and it went all the way to Parkville.
I thought that was Silver something. That
No,
creek's
it's called the Little Beaver Kill.
The little pond up there.
Oh, there's.
I think I remember most about that place
It
was
might be a
seeing
branch.
them
It
great
might be a
big
branch off of that, Rick.
lampreils
Yeah.
in there.
Bob, you want?
Remember Trout Brook, feet out of Peakville?
Oh yeah, that's what I was telling John last year when he went up there. You had to go. You're talking about the one where you crossed the big high bridge to go over to it.
And the beautiful hole down
You
there.
remember way up in the woods up there, way at the top of it.
Yeah,
It turned into a brookie stream at the very, very top of
Yeah,
it.
give me where it was posted.
Well, it was just about all posted.
You didn't get far up here and it was posted, and they were serious about it
I
too.
remember Perry
didn't
Dimmick's
recognize
dad with a 20-inch brown in the spring alongside of the stream, keeping it alive. He ended up putting it back in the stream, but he brought it up to the road to show it to us, and he had it in a little spring alongside the road, not that far up the creek. He caught it.
Was it in Trout Brook?
Yeah, at Peakville.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
We used to go there all the time, man. We used to spend a lot of time over there. You know, if you go to the
Now, who caught the fish?
Perry Dimmick's father.
Or Dave Dimmick's father, Perry?
No, Perry Dimmick's
I
father.
never met Terry.
He was 80 years old at the time,
What was wrong with
I
that?
didn't know
and
that.
I was a young. You never met him?
Rick remembers.
No.
I don't remember his father. No, Perry Dimmick's father.
Perry Dimmick's father caught a 20-incher out of there, and Dad and I were up in there. I don't know how, because they didn't fish over there. Well, they did back then, I guess. That was way back in the 60s. And we ran into him up there one day, and he had the beautiful brown in a spring alongside the stream, alongside the road. He walked it up to the road and was keeping it alive in the spring to show everybody, and then he took it back and released it back into the stream. That's the kind of guy he was.
Good for him.
It was the day we were over on Trout Brook. I can't remember. It was raining so hard or something like that. Nobody wanted to get out of the car. Dad went down the stream.
Ed Coben was with us.
Yeah, you and I and Ed Coben. And we're sitting in the car, and all of a sudden, here comes a trout up over the
Landed
bank.
on the windshield.
Yeah. He threw it up, and it went against the windshield off, and laid on the hood. A couple of minutes later, here comes another one.
I remember that.
I think it was kind of a signal for us, hey, they're hitting.
And we hadn't caught anything. It was raining too hard, and the stream was flooded. He said, "Just find the backwater. Just find the backwater."
You ever seen them great big
You want a
lampreys
scotch?
up in the creek?
Okay.
No, I haven't
They don't do that anymore, I wonder?
actually. No.
They only went up there. So, I mean, I'm talking about they were this long, that big around. They had portholes on the side of them, spots on the side. I mean, they're the meanest looking things you've ever seen.
Well, lampers.
Yeah.
They were a problem in our early fishing days.
Yeah.
You'd catch a nice trout, and he'd have a big old lamper humped on the side. Jeez.
And Dad and I used to go up and dig their babies for walleye fishing.
They
Up in
were a
Trout
hell of a
Brook.
bait, boy.
Did you ever go up in Trout Brook? There was one spot up in Trout Brook where there was this mucky hole next to a bridge, and we used to get down in there and dig the baby lampreils. They were about that long and black, and they were just squiggly as hell. And he hooked them on, used them as bait for bass, and
Now, are they
Walleyes.
dangerous or?
Nah, they never mess with you. They'd run away from you if you saw them in the creek. But they scared the shit out of you when you saw them. And they just cruise around the pool. The day that I caught that big one over in Eastbrook there, the last time I was up there, the stream was flooded.
Yeah.
And he was just in that little pocket alongside the bank
We
there.
were Dave Dimmick.
Dave Dimmick's
Yeah.
favorite hole in the world.
And the hole's
I didn't
not
know
there
it at the
anymore.
time. And the hole's gone, John said.
Sandy, I'll be in there.
Got washed out in the
I went up
flood.
this year. Hole's gone.
Or
Oh, jeez.
They dug that whole stream out, put a new bridge in, took the hole out.
That's terrible.
That was awful. A fabulous hole. It was a pipe coming through the bridge with a big hole there. And then on the far side of it, there was a deep 4 or 5 foot run going down along these big boulders down along there. So it was just a huge hole. Kind you'd expect a big trout to be in
Well,
because
that's
he had
where-
so much room to
and-
roam.
And Dave went there every time before he came
It
down.
looks like
Yeah.
a cage.
So I would too. That's the best, as far as I'm concerned, that's the best stream in the whole mountain.
Eastbrook?
Yep.
Well,
One of them, right there with them all, right there with Vegas, and one of my favorites. You guys are never even fishing. You go up there is the Platicille.
I think
Oh, it used to be one of my favorites. Yeah.
people were in Raleigh.
But it got so posted and everything, so.
I know. I wonder if that's-
I always caught my first trout every year at the Smith. Me and Dad would get down there and sit at the Smith Mountain waterfalls on the rocks up above them and sit there and catch our lemon right there in the first hole.
Beautiful fish in that stream.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
marked different.
The
in that
color
stream.
is incredible, isn't it?
They got different colors. It's funny how each stream is like that. They all got different colors and different streams.
This is mozzarella.
Pine Creek, I caught 4 brook trout over 15 inches long in one day. It was right after a torrential rainstorm. And I never knew. Do you ever fish Eastbrook? Do you know Eastbrook at all?
Walton.
Yeah, I fished there. One time we met you, and we had a little barbecue on the Eastbrook. I think that
you were a little boy.
I remember it, and
And
David
your brother,
was there,
your
right?
brother,
Or was
your
it-
father brought you, and I took David Kutzko.
I don't know if we were solo, but we were
Back in
12, I guess.
Do you remember the stretch that Hoffman always fished? He was the first guy we let out.
oh yeah,
And he ended up coming to that bridge
Yeah.
where that big red barn sits there.
Yeah.
That's where I was fishing the day where I caught all those big brook trout. And there was a guy that came up. I was fishing above the bridge there, above that red barn. And a guy came up through the
The cracker.
stretch below where Hoffman used to fish. And I was waiting for Dad to pick me up at the bridge there. And this guy come up through there, and he had a whole basket full of these 15-inch brook trout. And that's the only day in my life that I have ever seen that many big brook trout caught anywhere. But they were all caught in that one stretch of that creek. Now, I don't know what that had to do with it, but they were all in that one stretch. He had 5 or 6 of them. And I had
Hatchery truck
Sounds
as
like
well.
a
Yeah, they weren't hatchery.
sounds like a
And I'll tell
pond
you what.
overflowed there. And
No, and these were stream trout because they were long and skinny. They weren't fat like that, and they were absolutely just gorgeously colored up. And I'll tell you what, that 15.5-inch brook trout fought as good as any 20-inch brown trout that I ever had on my life. He went up and down that damn pool. I didn't know what the hell I had until I got him in finally, but that was an unbelievable
But
day.
it's the same year. It was a phenomenon because we went over to Westbrook.
Yeah, well, that was the
Wow.
same day.
Same
We went
day.
to Westbrook. I caught 2 out of
And
Westbrook,
we
too.
never fished Westbrook, and we caught big brookies out of that stream too. And it's never repeated itself. But of course, we never go back there that often. So, but it was a
Or does
phenomenon
Dimmick?
because both those streams caught up some huge brook
Well,
trout.
doesn't Dimmick catch a lot of big brook trout?
He does.
And I'll bet you that's where he gets them.
Oh, he gets a lot of them out of there.
Eastbrook.
The majority of them, absolutely.
Eastbrook is a big trout stream. I don't know why.
Well,
Better-
the only times we ever tried to go, it looked like everything was posted for crying out loud.
It's getting tougher to fish it. Yeah.
Well, you got to remember that a lot of that is due to deer hunting. People put them posters up for deer hunting. They don't give a shit about trout fishing.
Well, the thing is, you ought to make it a practice of stopping and asking.
Well, that's what Dad and I used to do all the time.
You crawl under the fence.
Ask each other.
They crawl under the barbed wire fence.
They look at each other and say, "What do you think?"
The trickiest one of all was,
They'd ask the first cow that came across.
remember the spot where you went there first with, I don't know if it was who it was with, but the spot
Mother
where,
and Judy.
the
Oh,
spot
Dad lost the big fish in
in the river.
In the East Branch. Yeah.
Yeah,
Was it
where,
in the East
where was
Branch?
that?
Yeah,
On the East
no.
You remember the stream that came off just above that hole? You could actually walk there from that hole and cross the river, and it came
Yeah,
on the other
yeah.
side and went up.
Wasn't it Russell Brook?
No, well, there was an
I can't
island.
remember the name of it.
There was an island out in the middle of the stream.
Yeah, but it was
It
above
wasn't-
that.
it
That
wasn't a
stream
big
came in-
island.
That stream came in from the left-hand side,
Yeah,
and it went way up that valley.
but
Dad and I killed them up in there. You
but
did too.
the island
They
was,
had rainbows in it.
and this is in the East Branch.
I remember you catching a splake
Yeah, I did catch Blake there.
in the river.
But Dad had a huge trout on.
Had it on. He had it in his net on the bank.
Yeah, he did
He
have
went
it.
to take the hook out of it.
No, what
Right.
happened? The clap of lightning.
Yeah, that's right. He was in a thunderstorm.
Yeah, it was right in the
Exactly
middle of a thunderstorm when he
Scared
caught
the
it.
shit out
Clap,
of him.
clap of lightning scared the hell out of him as he was taking the trout out of the net.
He said it was the biggest trout he ever caught in his life.
and he lost the trout. So, and that was in the East Branch.
It was, and that's what I'm looking at
Yeah.
right now. I'm trying to remember
I
exactly.
could still picture the
What the
island.
hell is that
Yeah,
stream?
remember the bank you had to go down to get to where he
Yeah.
had the trout? It was like
Yeah.
on a
You were
angle
able.
like that.
You were able to cross the creek there because you
above
guys.
the hole.
Yeah.
You and Mother and Judy were over on the far side.
Yeah, they were.
Gee, what the hell was that? I missed that trip.
But
So now we're about to discuss Bob Dwyer Sr.'s fishing style, fishing loves, etc. We have a beautiful picture of him when he's about
he's probably about 35 there.
35 years old,
Yeah, I would guess. Yeah, would you?
somewhere in the late 40s.
Can't really tell.
1950?
35, 45, 48.
Yeah, I would say that 30. That's right.
And he has his rod in his right hand, his creel over his shoulder, and a brook trout, I hope, in his pinky, I think. It's not much bigger than that right now.
Worm box.
And a worm box
On his belt.
on his belt, and a pair of shorts, and he must have just got out of the water because he has some moccasins on his feet, so he's done for the day.
I don't think so.
Anyway,
Now, the interesting thing is, you said he has, what, creel? Did you say creel?
I said a creel, but
It's a wooden basket type creel. Remember the old days, and it has a top on it and a lid? Even has a hole in the top that you can put the trout through. You put them down in.
You ever seen one?
I think I've seen him in the movies.
Yeah, the river runs through.
Yeah, right around through.
That's right.
Exactly. Yeah.
I have one bigger than this. Sitting, it's in my basement bathroom on the floor.
With towels.
No, we throw
Toilet
toilet
paper.
paper.
It comes through the hole. The toilet paper comes through the hole where you put the fish in.
Well, it's recycling.
But anyway, the worm box on the belt, and inside the creel, of course, would be a bottle, a jar, like we spoke of earlier, of minnows, redfins specifically. The reel is an automatic reel. What's the name of those again?
And what does an automatic reel mean? I mean,
An automatic reel is a
some people
reel.
have never used automatic reels, and
Yeah, it has a lever on it, and it has a spring inside of the casing of the reel, and you could wind up. It's kind of like winding up an alarm clock. You'd wind up the side, the whole case would wind up and tighten that spring. Then when you pulled the lever, it made the core that the line is on spin and reel the line in.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to remember the line that was on it was fly line.
Mhm.
And you would only have a leader, just like today, fly fishing. You'd have a leader tied to that fly line, probably the length of the rod.
Mhm.
And that's the way we fished. We fished with fly line and a leader on it. And whether we had a hook for a worm or we had one of those double treble hooks in a minnow rig for minnows, either way. And I can remember fishing on the Little Delaware, and I could cast that backhanded like that with fly line We could do all kinds of magic things with that. It was absolutely amazing. Yeah. You got it
Towards the end, though, I think we got more towards putting just monofilament on the.
on that particular reel.
Yeah.
Did we? Yeah, probably. Yeah.
It was easier.
Didn't have to
You might have a little backing on there, but
Yeah, we had a lot of backing because you couldn't put that much monofilament on that. Yeah,
No.
there wasn't enough on a spool to put on that, no matter how big a one you got.
And you used, I guess, fly poles, right? So
Fly rods, we used fly rods.
and
The old fly rods, just like you
same
have now.
9 feet, that
Yeah,
type of
probably
thing,
8 or 9 feet. Yeah.
and a cork
Cork.
base
Yep.
instead of your whatever we have today, mostly not cork. And I see the worm boxes are not worm condos. They look pretty small. How many worms you? I mean, you go through a lot of worms. You put spare worms in your creel.
Well, we didn't use night walkers back then. We dug our worms, probably in manure piles.
Mm-hmm.
leaf piles.
Yeah, leaf piles.
John did the manure piles. Bob did the leaf piles.
I worked the leaves.
The manure piles had juicier worms. But anyway, we really used red worms back then. We didn't use the night walkers like we do today, especially the baby night walkers. Today, my favorite's the baby night walkers. So.
Mm-hmm.
But these were wiggle worms.
Yeah.
Well, we were fishing smaller streams too in those days,
Yeah.
and you really didn't need a big old night walker.
But we did a lot of
But most of them was dug up.
brookie fishing.
Yeah.
Brookies were so good eating.
So you kept most of the fish and brought them back, or what?
We ate trout.
Actually, we would go early in the morning, and then meet again at 9 o'clock. Fry up all the fish right there. They'd be so fresh they'd curl in the frying pan.
We
We had catch the morning catch and eat it.
Yeah, we had breakfast after we fished.
Yep.
We had a Coleman stove,
Yep.
fry pan.
Set up along the bank.
Yeah, right there where we camped. Yep.
Yep.
A lot of fun and some good eating.
Yeah, we don't do that anymore. None of the kids have experienced that.
Well, we don't get up early enough for breakfast.
We don't start fishing till noon. Now we'd have to have lunch.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But that's a good picture of the. I've got a couple in the set. You remind me to get.
well, Dimmick still uses them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dimmick still fishes that way that we
With
just
automatic reel.
showed you.
With fly.
Does he use the
back-
fly line on his anymore?
No,
I think he's all monofilament now. Yeah. But you put a thicker monofilament on for the backing, and then you tie a lighter weight, whatever weight you want.
So not too much spinner fishing.
We didn't
Not-
do any spinning fishing.
I don't even think we knew what a spinning reel.
I
I don't even know if there were spinning reels in those days.
I introduced Panther Martin. Your father never even heard of one, much less used one.
Mhm.
And I came down with Panther Martins one year, and Pat was with me, and he became a believer. That one day I told you about it. We were over on Basin Clove or something like that, and I caught 56 trout in one stretch on a Panther Martin, and Pat couldn't believe it. And that's probably when he started using them. That's your father.
I could never handle one of them electric reels. You'd accidentally
You mean the automatic?
snap your line out.
Automatics. I mean,
Yeah.
They weren't electric, but
Well, automatic.
they would
The
jump on.
spring, unless you kept that
It took
spring
some
right.
getting used to, though.
And they automatically re-sprung. So
Well,
that
you had to
Yeah.
turn it back.
Yeah, you
let it
just
spring
get this thing
release.
right here.
I'm in the process of
If it got too
Wound it back up.
Then
You don't
we go
want to
too
wind it too
fast.
tight.
You don't need to get it.
just snap your line.
And then fishing generally worms,
In those days, it was worms, yeah, mostly.
and then
We did
else?
switch a little bit and fish with red fins out of the stream. In those days, when you get them out of the Bramley Mountain Road stream, we'd go up to the farmhouse that we stayed at, and right in front of their house was a big pool, and we'd stretch a net across, and my dad would go up by the bridge and then come stomping down through there.
Kicking the rocks over and all.
Yep, making all kinds of racket.
The minnows would rush downstream, and
And we'd
Bob and I would both have one end of the net, and we'd lift it up, and we'd get our red fins and we'd put them in little glass jars with a cap on them, and carry them in our vest pocket.
Mm-hmm. And we had to remember to change the water about once an hour, or they would die.
Oh.
And not that maybe that made a hell of a lot of difference, but the point was, the fresher they were, it seemed like the more trout you caught. And then because the minute we went to use them, we used them with a wire rig. And this stiff wire rig you put down through their mouth and out their rear end, and then put a double hook on it and put the hooks up around the body of the fish. It was kind of our first approach to the rig that who made it?
Roger.
Yeah, that Roger made. Yeah, Rogers was a little better in the sense that he also had a treble hook on the front, on the head. Mm-hmm. So it made his a little more effective.
Mm-hmm. And that you found back then was bigger fish, or?
It was usually always bigger fish, yeah. Of course, we caught a lot of bigger fish then, too. Although I think we've been catching a lot of big fish
Lately.
the last few years, too, man.
I see Bob Dwyer Sr. was wet waiting, I suppose.
We did a lot of that.
I'm not sure that he waited like that, though. I think he was just posing there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or just going downstream to see if you can get one.
That's right.
But you had hip boots, waders. What did you do in those days?
Most of them was all hip boots in those days.
Yeah.
We were lucky to have them. You know?
I don't think we even had waders back then. I can't recall.
I don't even know if waders had come around by then.
And there was no such thing as felt for the bottoms of them.
No, Christ.
When you slipped,
falling all the time.
Hey, when you slipped, you went on your ass. You had to be careful.
Yeah, everybody had hip boots. That's what we had.
And they were probably made by Endicott Johnson Corporation, too.
No.
Endicott Johnson made everybody's shoes and boots at one point in time.
Did he fish fast?
And here's where Mesa River beaver killed at Junction Pool.
Yeah.
How do I fish?
Slow.
Very slow.
Extremely so.
But your dad, did he fish slow or fast?
He fished.
He's the slowest I've ever seen.
Than my father.
Okay.
I'm the slowest fisherman of all.
That I know, yes.
Yeah.
But, on the flip side of that, is he's also the most thorough.
Yeah, you don't miss
Which
nothing.
means you don't want to fish behind us. He didn't leave one damn spot for you to fish. I would fish a stream and I'd say, God, I can't get a strike. That goddamn John been here.
Nobody compared to Bob Dwyer Sr.
Where do you get to if you go over the top
He
of
was
Bear Spike Mountain
absolutely
and come down the
a
other side?
magician on the stream.
Downsville.
He really was.
Well, actually,
And that's
below
because of
Downsville on the
casting,
one road came
everything.
out on what's the name of those
Everything.
two creeks that went into the East
Every
Branch down there?
element.
We used to fish once in a while.
He wasn't a fly fisherman. I don't think he ever
There's
fished
a lot of
flies.
them on that.
And I hate to say that because I
East
enjoy it so
Branch,
much
you go up
myself.
along there and the streams go out to the left-hand side.
But as far as bait fishing goes, he had no equal.
We are primarily
And I include Perry Dimmock, seriously.
and
And
East Branch,
Leonard Hoffman, all of them.
East Branch
There
Road
was
there
nobody better than him.
towards Downsville.
We could not have had a better mentor.
So he fished with
Shin
each
Apple?
of the three of you whenever he went out, or he
That's East Branch.
fished by yourself and followed him?
Yeah.
Or what?
Yeah, between East
No,
Branch and Downsville.
We were pretty
Along
religious.
East Branch, there was Shin Apple.
When we were young.
Another stream we used to fish.
We were with him,
I'll show you all of them here.
and he taught us what we had to do,
Apple and
just like I have you. And you're
Still trying to learn.
No, you're not. No. But when you first started, your father didn't have the patience.
Downsville.
So,
I go back towards the East Branch.
but
What are those two right there?
it's
Campbell
kind of
Brook,
like
No, they went off that side.
Mills Hollow,
animals. Wild
there's
animals,
Shin
right?
Apple,
There's Shin Apple?
and there's Trout
Parents take
Brook,
care of the little ones.
Dry Brook,
That's way back
Just
down
for
to the
so
East
long.
Branch. The road that
And
goes
then you
down
cut 'em loose.
goes up along the East
And
Branch.
and follows the
Same
river
thing
all the
there.
way. See the dotted line?
And then we all
It's
each
Route 30.
fished our own stretch.
It comes all the way back through here. There's
It
Clausen
was none
Brook,
of this leapfrogging.
No leap
Baxter Brook,
No.
I remember Baxter Brook.
Centerville.
The Isley farmhouse on Vegas Creek became the new fishing central for the Dwyers and their friends in the late 50s and early 60s. Moved at some point to Isley's on Vegas, and the question was, when did that happen? I guess it was before 61 when my dad showed up, because that's where he went.
Yeah.
Tom
I can
Curtis.
remember Isley was a big Mets fan, was he?
Yeah, they
1960.
drank Rheingold beer.
When did they win the...
69.
No, but it was 1963 that they came into existence.
Yeah.
So I think that's when he...
61 too.
And he used to...
Oh, it was definitely after that.
when he melted his cause, he went, "Go Mets, go Mets." But anyway, yeah, it was, your father came down first in 61 according to his own words.
Yes, that's, and he would know.
So, like I told you before, it was the late 50s that we started staying at Isley's, so. Yeah, it was, I would say
And what was the
57,
reason?
58.
What was
Just
the
another
reason
place
go
to
there?
stay.
Food, baby. It was great food, great steak. You ever been there?
No, it was.
Never stayed at Isley's?
Never did.
I can't imagine why they ever built a house like this. It had like 14 bedrooms.
Well,
The upstairs was just bedroom. It was like a motel.
Every bedroom was like going into an antique market.
Really?
Really, right? The woodwork and everything else. They had the
the only thing I
original
remember about Isley
furniture.
is the wonderful pies she baked. They were unbelievable.
You had free reign of the whole house. The food, at dinner she'd have roast pork, barbecue chicken, roast beef. For breakfast she'd have ham, sausage, bacon, eggs, home fries, pancakes, muffins.
And they did it on an old iron stove, too.
And it was like,
With
for
wood-
lodging
with wood.
and all your meals, like $4.25 a day. That was the bill.
It was ridiculous.
And you could go to the refrigerator anytime you want to and help yourself to anything that was there.
Oh yeah, it was always ready for you.
And
Sit
we
Play
played
cards,
cards.
eat all night.
After dinner, we would play cards until 1 o'clock in the morning.
And they'd still be up drinking wine in the kitchen.
No, wait a minute.
He comes staggering through in his underwear.
Their bedroom was just off.
Yeah, right off the room.
Right
we
off
play
the
cards.
room where we were playing cards.
It's like
And
Martha
then
and Jack.
Well, it was the same as Martha and Jack.
Every once in a while, the door
And they
would
say,
the door would squeak open, and he would head out to the kitchen, and he would get the jug and go back. It was a jug of wine, not a bottle of wine.
Yeah, a gallon.
It was a jug of wine.
A gallon.
They ran out, so they take another jug. It's the only way they could sleep through all the noise.
I often wonder how the hell
I don't know how
the
they did it.
Hewitts did it.
Yeah, well, this Isley would do that until he'd be up until 1 or 2 o'clock and then go to bed and then be up at 5 o'clock to milk the cows.
That's right.
And did it every day.
And then every night he had the Mets game on in the barn with a transistor radio. And he
Boy, was
milked
he
the cows, like I said.
He was so happy when Sunday night came, we all left.
But they were the nicest people.
Yeah.
When did pitch become the card game?
From the beginning.
Was it? 'Cause
Well, we
they
played
poker.
nickel dime poker for a long time, yeah. Yeah.
Hoffman was the original poker
He was
player.
big on poker. He didn't want to play pitch. He never played pitch, I don't think. I don't think Hoffman ever played pitch.
I think
He played poker regularly, big poker, big time poker with his buddies.
Barney Zimmer might have introduced pitch.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah,
Barney
I-
Zimmer was on the newsletter. He was one of the.
He was my cousin's husband, Judy. And,
Good guy, Marty.
And Barney may have been the one that introduced pitch, if I recall.
If
But
Barney,
I can't swear to it, though.
if Barney
Yeah,
ever
neither.
came to your house, or if Barney ever went fishing with us, or Barney came to the pitch games, you never seen him walking up to the house with no less than 2 12-packs of Genesee beer under his shoulders. And he consumed it all.
He was dedicated to Genesee beer, yeah.
And so was Bob Lyons.
He drank
Bob-
Jenny.
I used to.
Bob Lyons used to wear a 6-pack of
You know-
beer on his belt while he was deer hunting.
You know how the beer thing is? They had the
12-pack or the
plastic
6-pack.
rings.
Yep. Yeah.
He cut him in half, put him on his
he
belt.
would he would cut him in half, and put 3 on each side of his belt, and he'd have three cans on each side.
Before he went in the woods to go deer hunting up at Jack's.
Sometimes them deer are thirsty.
Yeah, he used to come up with Beaver Kill Bill, didn't he?
Yes. Well, that was.
You ever heard of him?
I
He
don't
would
know who
go
the
out
hell
and
he
fish
was.
all day long. He's a fly fisherman. He'd go out and fish all day long, and he had a creel. And he'd come back and he'd take his trout out at Isley's house in the creel. And he'd have like 2 stockies, about 8 inches long, all dried up because they've been in his creel all day. A sunfish, and a couple chubs.
He kept everything.
And he fished. He was the first one out the door in the morning and the last one in at night. He'd be back at dark and leave before light.
We Dad used to ride his ass.
Oh.
Yeah, we
Beaver Kill Bill.
We dubbed him as Beaver Kill Bill. And your father would remember him.
Oh, he definitely would. Yeah.
But anyway,
They come up together?
No,
I'm just kidding about that part. I was
But Beaver Kill Bill, where did he come from?
the same time frame.
He was
God
from-
only
he was
knows.
From New Jersey, or
yeah, I mean, he's from the city area about him. How he found Isley.
he was from down east.
But he stayed at Isley.
Somehow he found Isley. Somehow.
He somehow found out that they were taking in fishermen. So he wound up appearing there one day. And
He was there right from the beginning.
Yeah, he was always a lot of fun, really. I mean,
we had no problem with him because he wasn't
We
part
busted
of
his
our
ass
group.
and he'd never say nothing back.
He was really, because of numbers, he was a little bit fearful of us. He was by himself.
Okay. Were there a lot of other people that stayed there while you were?
No.
It was just him, the Dimmicks, your dad, and us, as far as I knew, right? And Tommy.
I can't even remember the Dimmicks thing. I really can't.
Well, Rick said he remembered that's where he met
Perry?
Perry's dad, did you say?
No, the only time I ever seen him was that time he got that truck because he didn't come down there.
So
It was over on Peaksville when we saw him.
So did the Dimmicks at all stay?
All I remember is Perry Dimmick. Perry Dimmick stayed there. Yes, I remember him very vague.
Yeah, see, I don't remember that, but Rick said yes, so that's fine with me.
I guess the only reason that Perry would
I
stay
remember when I
there,
could see him walking around there. I would his socks hanging off his feet.
but
But yeah, he was a character.
the only reason Perry Dimmick stayed there was because of Leonard Hoffman.
Yeah,
Leonard
that's
Hoffman
exactly right.
stayed there.
Exactly right.
I would tell you that
They were there from the beginning. Dimmicks might have been there before we were.
no, I would say
you're absolutely right. I think Dimmicks were there when we came
I almost
there.
think that's how we found out about it because Dimmick told Hoffman and.
I think you're right. I think that's a good point he's making.
Mm-hmm.
I really think he's right.
Huh?
Because Dimmicks were part of that area.
yeah.
I mean, hell, Dimmick Road and everything else. They were all his father was born there.
Oh really?
Perry's father was born. That's how Dimmick Road got named.
I didn't know.
Perry's grandfather was from Roxbury, but not Roxbury Run, the town of Roxbury.
Right.
And he was a colonel or something like that.
Yep, and they named that road over the hill after him.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll be damned.
So yeah, I think the Dimmicks were there before we were,
The Dimmicks were a huge name down that
and
area.
still are.
Now, Isley's was the falls right there? I mean, it was on the way up, but it was much earlier than.
No, they had a big hole behind their house, but
Okay, but if you go up
the
Big
falls,
Creek,
those big falls,
there's
was
Big
further
Falls
down.
is further down. I just don't know exactly where the house was.
The ones that
Actually,
were hard to get up. Remember the way
See,
down the
where that
bottom?
road cuts
Yeah,
off
I was gonna say that was where the road cut up.
Yeah, that's right. That's where the falls are. Yeah.
No, that's where Isley's was. No.
No, Isley's. I thought you
The
were
Big
back.
Falls, there's a place like that too. A road
Oh,
goes
is there?
off, road back.
In fact, it's got
And
an
you go up
official
over the hill
name.
about another mile and a half, and
And
there's
then
another
there's
one of those little
and that's
detour
where
roads
the-
that goes off and goes back up.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually that far, but you're right. The first one, coming up, the first one is not the one. That's where the falls are.
Yeah. I never fished. I never seen them actually.
I'll tell you what, they are
Do you
beautiful.
remember the night that you and I went up to those falls and you were using minnows and I was watching you?
Yeah,
Oh, God.
fish were everywhere, weren't they? Unbelievable.
Big ones.
Yeah,
That was one of the.
I don't think we got too many of them, but it was beautiful.
You were catching them and I was landing them, bagging them.
Yeah, that was.
You had a little minnow.
We had some great times. All of us have had a great time at least once.
No, we had a
what we call Vegas, but it ain't really Vegas.
in Kingston, bro.
Huh?
What's it called?
It's
A little-
officially called.
Is it Batavia Kill?
Batavia Kill, yeah.
I got a lot of pictures of the fishing that we did at Isley's.
Do you?
And
Dropbox.
with my dad, our dad, sitting on the ground with his damn
Yeah.
trout. He was hanging over both sides of the cooler and all that stuff, you know. In fact, that was back in the days when your dad was just starting to show up, but it was a fly. Your dad was a fly fisherman.
Was he a fly fisherman? I don't
he was a
remember
fly
that. I don't
fisherman.
think he was a fly fisherman.
No,
No,
He didn't even know how to fish.
no, I didn't.
He was a real rookie because
I remember him being in awe when Dad would come back with his damn creel.
your
So
father
was I, by the way.
your father was a real rookie, and the reason I know was because I had to take him out a few times.
Well,
But
he
then,
sure transformed though.
but then you go from.
And we're
Right,
talking
that was the
yeah,
50s, so you were at Isley's when Tom Kerr started to come up?
That's Tom spent almost all the time we were at Isley's with us.
Steps Tom Kerr started in about 58, 59? And
Yeah.
why did he, I guess he married into the family? And
Well, it took us a while to accept him.
He started cooking his steaks.
No,
When he started
yeah.
bringing them steaks, we said,
Oh,
you're in.
You cannot believe
4.5-inch sirloins,
Bone
Bone
in.
in.
Bone in.
about that big.
and you cannot buy them anymore.
He drank a whole bottle
Oh,
of
you
scotch
can't.
while he was cooking it because he cooked it
No,
very
he,
slow.
he would bring. Speaking of scotch, Bob.
No problem. Don't worry about it. When you're ready.
Oh, I thought you were. But anyway, he would always bring a 1.75 liter bottle of scotch,
Plus,
the biggest steak you've ever seen in your life.
it would be about that thick.
4.5 inches.
Bone in.
I've been with him when he ordered it.
And about twice the size of that platter right there. And we put it on a charcoal grill out back, and we sit there and play cards until it was done. Tom would keep turning it, deciding when it was done. Oh my
father-
God.
My father had lights in the backyard draped from all the trees, and we'd sit at a picnic table and play
Yeah, it was like a
pitch.
carnival out there.
we sat at a picnic table and played pitch, and then the steak came off the grill. The steak was unbelievable.
Yeah, we throw corn on there too.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Peppers and onions.
But
and frying pan.
that's the only reason that we allowed Tom Kerr to come into.
Yeah, he said, if I bring these steaks, can I keep coming? I said, yes, you can. But he had a special market there in White Plains that he went to.
Yeah.
And told the guy exactly what he wanted, and then after a while, the guy knew what he wanted, so he'd have it ready for him.
And the nice part about it was that I think it was through the Kiwanis Club that Tom Kerr met your father.
And lots of the other guys that he brought up.
Well, first he met Pat.
Yeah.
And told Pat about all the fish we were catching, and Pat's going,
No.
come on, nobody catches that many trout. Come on, I go up there all the time, don't get nothing.
Pat
Come on.
of the impression if you caught a trout in a weekend,
Wow, what a
then
weekend.
you had a fabulous trip.
We're back at the Isleys. We're eating our faces off. Pie
keep our
to our
energy
right,
up.
pie to our left. Barely got out to fish, I suppose. You're eating so much.
Everybody got up every morning.
5 a.m. because of Tom Kerr. And Tom Kerr is the only reason.
He had a saying that he always hollered at us. Like,
To say, get your asses out of bed, time's a wasting. And he used to knock on my door. He used to come into our bedroom. He'd come in everybody's room.
But anyway, Tom Kerr came into the picture. We did not know that he was interested in trout fishing. And he came and visited us one time. We got speaking about it after playing probably a little bit of poker. Back then we played poker. And we got talking about trout fishing. And I think Dad was quite surprised that Tom was interested in trout fishing. So
Tom didn't appear to be the type of guy that would like to trout
no,
fish.
no. He was kind of a little on the chumpy side. Yeah.
I remember.
So we didn't think that he was a fisherman until one time he came up and visited us with Aunt Mary and the girls. We got talking about it, and Dad invited him to go trout fishing with us. So that's how that all started.
Good old times of wasting time.
Tom Kerr.
Yeah.
As always.
Tom Kerr, I have to say that I truly loved Tom Kerr. Now, there's people in the family that say that they couldn't stand Tom Kerr, so it depended on who you were and whether you wore a skirt or a pair of trousers. But that's really what it boiled down to. But he was a kindest-hearted guy to us. And we really appreciated all he did.
He fished hard too. He
Yeah.
ended up being a pretty good fisherman.
And we used to go down and we would fish some streams down around Liberty. Was it Liberty?
We used to meet down there.
Yeah, at the Parkville Diner.
Parksville's the name of the town.
Parksville
I will
Diner.
show you on these maps. I should have brought the books in.
Dedicated fisherman I've ever seen, but he was not the best fisherman I've ever seen. He didn't catch that many, but he fished his ass off. I'll say that for him. He was there from daylight till dark every night. Never came back with that many. I never really seen him catch that many big ones either. But he was the most dedicated, and he was out there every day busting his ass. I can't believe it, because he was never in really good shape from the time we met him. You know, he was an older guy to begin with, and he was always pretty chubby and drank heavily. And but he was he loved it as much as anybody I ever seen. You know, he loved being out there. In fact, it was more important to him to be up there in the Cascade Mountains than anything else he ever did, I believe, because he was there him and my dad and I were there every weekend. You know, we didn't miss it. He met us every Friday afternoon somewhere. One hell of a guy. He was good. He could catch him, but he didn't. He wasn't.
But he learned from you guys, basically. Or did he?
Yeah. Well, I don't know where he fished before that.
Well, we were surprised that he was a fisherman. One time he divulged to my father that he liked to trout fish, and we had no idea because he lived so far away from us. White Plains, right?
I think the first time we went fishing, we went striper fishing on Long Island Sound with the Kiwanis Club.
Yeah,
I think that's where it all started. Because I was too small to even reel one in. I remember getting one on and couldn't even budge it, you know. So
they used
had to hand the rod off.
They used to throw a bunch of moss bunkers out there. It's the first trip we didn't even know he fished. They would remember moss bunkers? Do you know anything about it?
No.
They went out fishing for bluefish in the moss bunkers.
That's what it was. Blues, not striper.
Yeah,
Blues.
yeah. But the moss bunkers would they're kind of like shad in regular lakes. So that's the first time we ever realized that Tom Kerr was a fisherman.
Well, I think that he used to go fishing those reservoirs down there by the city up above.
Yeah, Croton.
What's the name of the other one? Starts with an S or something?
Shahakin or
No.
No, well, that one was
Some of the water
near,
supplies.
near Kingston. That's
some of the water supplies
Yeah,
were
down
near
below Kingston.
Shokin.
But
He used to talk about that all the time. He used to go there fishing all the time before he came up fishing with us.
But we never knew he was a fisherman, and then that came out, and we invited him to come with us, and that's how.
We probably went down to go to a Yankee game or something and stayed with him. That's how we.
Yeah, he absolutely loved it once he got going, man. He was a good fisherman too. I mean, he fished like hell.
That's what I said. He was the hardest fisherman I ever met.
He really was, absolutely.
He would bust his ass and fish. He'd do anything, but he wasn't the best
I can
fisherman.
remember a
But
lot
he
of
was
the
the
banks
hardest
we
fisherman.
went down, and he went right down with us, man.
But he was very generous because we were not well off.
And he was doing very well. Whatever he
He
did,
was a salesman, and he was quite well off.
And when we first got involved with him, he was actually living in Norwich, New York.
Really?
Really, I didn't know that.
Where's Norwich?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right in the middle of nowhere, up above Binghamton, up in there.
Yeah.
Mary Kerr was up in Norwich.
Absolutely.
I didn't know
I
that.
didn't know that.
It was all part of the business he was in.
Wow.
He was in chemical sales.
Some kind of sales. I don't remember.
Chemicals.
It
But
was
Norwich, whatever the hell.
Well, their
it's called.
pharmaceutical area.
probably. And then he
Those
ended
chemicals.
up moving with another outfit, and that's how he got to White Plains.
I didn't know that.
Where the hell was he from originally? I have no idea.
You know, I don't.
Oh, well, he was from out west because I remember he got hit with lightning out in Utah or something. His father was Mormon or something.
Listen, he was a Mormon.
Yeah,
So he was.
yeah, he was from Utah.
Yeah, he was.
He got hit with
Oh,
lightning
definitely
when he was
from
young.
Utah.
He got hit with lightning out there, and
He
almost
got
died.
hit by lightning.
I don't know how
Salt
the hell he
Lake
got
City.
east, but
So,
I don't either.
so he was
But-
Salt Lake City, Utah,
yeah. Then he ended up working for an outfit out of Norwich, New York.
and he sold a lot of chemicals for swimming pools type things.
Well, he sold them for
And
like
carpets.
the cleaning
So-
business. The
yeah.
cleaning business.
And he sold a lot of carpets and all that kind.
He was a traveling
Just a
salesman.
typical
He always had a
salesman.
company car, a Chevy.
The problem was he got hooked up with an outfit in White Plains area, and they hired him at a very nice salary. He was way excited about it, and they got him in there, and Tom had a lot of technical expertise on how to clean things, carpet, everything else, and chemicals, and they milked him for all of his information.
They get rid of him.
And then fired him. And it about killed him. He couldn't believe they would do that to him. Well, we all know the real world, right?
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. God, he was so devastated when that happened to him. Then he kind of screwed around with several different jobs after that. Never really got squared away.
How old was he then?
I was trying to think how old he was when he actually died, when he had that problem.
He was fairly young.
What happened to him? I never knew what happened to him.
He had
He had internal bleeding.
an artery burst in his.
Who's that?
He was shaving.
Tom Kerr.
He was shaving in his.
He was in the bathroom. Yeah.
His house in the White Plains,
It was a funeral. Huh?
and something the wrong thing ruptured, and of course his wife didn't know what the hell to do, and he bled to death before they could get any help to him.
I never knew.
Your father and I went to his funeral.
No, I
Did you
flew
go?
up there for it.
Yeah, I
it
did
was right
too.
in White Plains. Yeah.
Yeah, I did as well. Yeah, and your father.
And what year was
You
that?
might have still been up there then. I don't remember when
I
he
think
died.
we were.
Were we still up
I
there?
think you were still up there, yeah, because I know I flew up, and it wasn't long after I was in Raleigh when I flew up there for it.
It's like Sandy was saying, she didn't get down to the Catskills, and I forget, you were in Raleigh.
Yeah.
And we were still up there.
That's
You
right.
guys were still down here, and the kids were little, you know?
But anyway, that's his saga.
But you didn't know Tom,
No, I met him.
did you?
Yeah, so I was.
Yeah, when you were
How
a little
old
kid.
were you?
Yeah, I was 10 or 12. Or
Yeah.
I think so. He was.
But he was.
I remember his funeral. I think. You know that.
Yeah, it was
or
a
whatever, I was-
pretty good sized funeral right there in White Plains. Yeah.
And he was Kiwanis and
Yeah.
Daniel Gray as well. So.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was.
Yeah, he was.
All of the
And
above.
I
Yeah.
think he introduced Dad to Daniel Gray too. So.
Yeah. He was a guy's guy type of thing. Yeah.
He was.
Tom Kerr.
He was really one of my favorites.
With the move to Isley's, Vegas Creek became the new Little Delaware, providing great fishing to the whole crew.
Because every morning I fished Vegas. It was, in fact, people had their own stretches.
Yeah.
Hoffman always fished. Well, I'm trying to remember the other day what the name of that stretch was where he always fished.
The Pheasant Farm.
No, I'm not talking about the president.
Where
I'm
was
talking about up.
Let me make sure this is still
Up above.
It was up there where the Berkeys were, you know, almost to the up. Remember that
Yeah, okay.
where the road went like that and then it went back like that. You remember that stretch right there where you
Yeah.
started at that bridge? That's
Yeah.
where Hoffman always fished.
You
that
mean
stretch.
What was your dad's section? Did he have a?
His favorite one was the chicken farm.
Which is?
on Vegas? You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was the
Chicken
chicken
farm.
farm? That was
Above
not
ours
too,
is
I
that
was going
far.
to say it's not too far.
They went, and there's a big barn, not too far from the stream.
You walked down to a little iron bridge and went across the creek.
Yeah. And there, it was.
It ended up going up to, what was the name of that next to the Ponderosa? No, was it the Ponderosa?
Hey, stick around there. Have a good time.
Oh, I'm sure.
Green.
Green, yeah. Green Valley Farm or Green something farm. That's where it ended.
Green Mountain Farm. or
Green Mountain. That was it. Green Mountain Farm. Yeah. Between the chicken farm and Green Mountain Farm. And
That's
the chicken
where,
farm.
That was a nice stretch too.
Yeah, it was.
There was a big hole up there just past the barn up around the corner
Yeah.
where he had this great big trout on this day. and it got off right at his feet. And when it got off, it spit a lizard out of its mouth on the rock where he was standing. And he was all pissed off about losing the trout, and he kicked the lizard out of the stream, and the damn trout came up and ate the lizard.
And said this.
The chicken farm was a coop, and it was probably about 3 stories high.
I remember
Yeah.
seeing it. Is it
You've
still
probably
there
seen
now?
it.
Yeah. I don't know if it's there now, but I remember seeing it back in the day.
Then when you walked down to the iron bridge, and it was a big rock wall on the one side of the creek that went up along there for about maybe 20 or 30 yards, and there was nice holes along the rock wall there. Big high rock wall, like they held the bank up back under the trees.
Oh, that was a hell of a hole there, man. Jeez.
Straight.
I got at Zimmerman's Bridge one day, and the water was about that color.
So did you go back home?
No, I came down across the bridge, and the best part of the hole is right under the bridge.
And Zimmerman's
Yeah.
at the top of the bridge.
Well, I think it's at the top.
Yeah, well,
top
yeah,
right.
it was kind of
Yeah.
flat under the bridge.
But with that
it wasn't
color,
a whole hell of a lot
it
of
could
hole.
be anywhere. It could be anywhere.
It
with that
wasn't a
color.
big hole, a
No,
deep hole.
I'm looking underneath the bridge, right? Well, I did catch the trout I'm going to speak about above the bridge.
Did you? Hurry up.
That hole you're talking about above the bridge, you had to go through the bushes to get,
Yeah,
so you didn't disturb it. Well, with the water like this,
you fished off the bridge.
I walked right down to the bridge.
Now, was that legal?
And I'm looking down here, and I'm looking up here, and I made a cast up here, which you said is the best part of the hole. And it was.
Turned out to be.
And honest to God, I'm standing in the water. And I didn't get the hit.
Remember the color of the water.
And I didn't get a hit until my line was right by my feet.
And the fish showed his head to
You
you.
ran between
No,
his
I never
legs,
saw it.
jumped up,
But-
Oh, you
in
did?
his back
But I
pocket.
felt the tap, set the hook, and I caught a 22-inch trout right off the toes of my boots.
Well, it's like the time you and I fished. Remember where I used to
You
drive
probably had
down?
it all the way upstream.
To the West
just didn't feel
Branch.
it.
The guy let me drive down through his farm, just above the slaughterhouse.
Oh, that one you lost. Lost! That huge trout
I think you said you lost it.
But you had just caught a nice fish.
Yeah.
At the end, we drove down there and we walked down and fished at the lower end, and it was colored up.
Yeah.
You caught a nice fish down there,
Yeah.
16, 17-inch trout. And I just kind of turned around and there was like a pool behind me, off the beaten path of the stream. The stream was high because it was all colored up. And I just flipped. I don't even remember what the hell. I think I had a Pins minnow on or something.
I think so. Yeah.
I don't remember. And I just jerked it a couple times. Nothing happened enough, so I started reeling it back up. And as soon as I got to where I could see it, about 4 or 5 inches from the surface, I saw this mouth coming like this. Oh God! It actually scared me. That fish was so big.
It was a 24, 25-inch trout. It was
I
absolutely
said,
huge.
John, I think the trophy just went downstream.
I was standing right next to him. I saw the whole thing happen. I couldn't believe how big this trout was.
And yet the situation was, and we should have learned from this, when it's colored up like that, you can almost get yourself anywhere. Just be careful, and you don't have to make long casts.
Yeah.
Just find them out there. Oh, Lord.
I
said, I can't
caught that one
believe
right by
a
my
fish
toes.
that big was right behind me, right
Yeah.
there. But he couldn't see us
No.
with that colored water.
The Hewitt Farm was one of the favorite stretches of stream along Vegas, but it took on much more significance after the Isleys were no longer able to accept guests. Martha and Jack Hewitt provided accommodations to our group of fishermen, and the Hewitt Farm became the first home of the Bob Dwyer Fishing Club. And when you were at Isley's, was Martha and Jack's area?
They were there at the time. We just didn't go there. That was always
What's
there.
your question, though?
But would you fish behind their house?
Oh,
Was,
yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
was it a big, up
Yeah,
there?
well, they
to-
never had a post.
Oh, hell yeah. We would spread out and fish all the way up through where the guys had the. Where did
Still
we go
can't
to
think
eat
of
that
this.
night? We stole all the glasses and had to give them back.
That was Roscoe.
Oh, No, it's not Roscoe.
No, it's
It's
Roxbury Run.
Rockberry Rum.
Now, did they?
It was good fishing all
When did
through
they
there.
put the dam in? Because it wasn't there.
I know, but when the dam went out, it made some great fishing holes.
Shelley came out
She
there.
let a fish out of the pond.
Yeah.
We used to go up there at night and fish that pond. Remember doing that?
Where
John?
the dam went out, you mean?
Yeah, the pond itself.
There's big water there, too. Deep. You know Mr. Big was in there, buddy.
My favorite was the Pheasant Farm. Have you ever heard of the Pheasant Farm?
On Vegas?
Where was the Pheasant Farm?
That was Hewitt, wasn't it?
Jack and Martha Hewitt used to raise pheasants. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
And before we stayed there, we used to be staying at the Isleys. And we say, where do you want to fish tomorrow morning? And I would always say the pheasant.
The Barbed Wire Fishing Club was fortunate to enjoy the hospitality of Martha and Jack for many years. The club was influential in having the road adjacent to their farm named after Jack, but that was nothing compared to the fond memories experienced by the BDFC members throughout our years there. So let us conclude the first chapter of the BDFC Historical Diaries with some further recollections from the Dwyer boys about fishing in the 1960s.
I was sitting out on the front deck, well, porch of Isley's, and enjoying a nice Beck's beer.
Yeah. You didn't even remember Beck's
Probably
back then.
Genesee back then.
Genesee Ale.
Rolling Rock.
Yeah, we couldn't afford Beck's back then.
Rheingold. Rheingold is my beer, the dry beer.
Yeah, that was
The
a good
beer of the Mets.
Yeah. And Valentine Ale was
The hell with the beer. What about fishing?
Valentine Ale was a good one.
So what happened, John, when you're out on the porch there?
I think I was the only person sitting on the porch.
I don't ever remember sitting on that
Yeah,
porch.
you always were a lonely guy.
I was meditating.
Well, you
and-
couldn't go in the house unless you caught some
He was
fish.
fantasizing about Margaret.
You were paying the penalty for coming home with no fish.
He was fantasizing about Margaret.
No, he was a hot dog, that wasn't he?
I was in 1961. I was 20 years old.
Wow.
You were still a virgin then.
A few more years after that. When did you meet Shelley?
And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, this car drove up, and I wish I remembered what the car was like.
The hell with the car. Who was in it?
62 Chevy.
It was
Had to be an Impala or Volkswagen Bug.
Bel Air.
it was Pat Grimes.
Whoa! Was it a gold Cadillac?
No, that was years later. I spoke about that earlier. But anyway, this car pulls up, and this gentleman, I'll call him a gentleman at this time, but we came to
How to
realize
make a story long.
a lot different later. But anyway,
Well, we got 80 hours.
he gets out and he says, "I'm looking for Tom Kerr."
So are we.
I said, "Well, you have the right place." And my name's John Dwyer. I says, "I'd like to make your acquaintance, but and who are you?" And your father came up and introduced himself. It was his first trip to the Catskills, and we just had a cordial. I offered him a beer, and he certainly took one.
Gratefully accepted.
And two, and third,
Hemlocks.
and then a fourth. So I knew I liked the gentleman, and that was the first time I ever met Pat Grimes. We had a wonderful
Yeah.
experience, and he spent the weekend with us.
Enormous
And,
number of.
And I personally
Yeah, we never
took
even looked.
responsibility for him because I feared for his life. I could tell
Where are they?
that he was a Highlander,
I'm going to check them out, baby.
and I was
Yes,
a little
that's
bit
what I
concerned.
I couldn't
I
believe
had
the
no
pictures
idea
of
who
those
he
trout
was,
that you
but
caught
if
on
he
that
was a
pond.
friend of my friend,
Crocodile
who was
ponds.
my uncle, Tom Kirk, I would,
Suppose you couldn't figure out a way
Make
to
sure
catch
they
them
had a
without
good
doing
time.
that.
well.
That's
And
good.
now listen to this story.
I'm trying to.
I took her down to Catskills for the first time ever. And we were fishing Bob Bryden's just right where Coder Brook comes in. It's the first time I ever
Were
took
you
her
in
down there.
Little Delaware or in
The little Delaware.
And you got to the junction.
And we left Johnson City. We went to the sports shop, and we could not get a fishing license for her.
Oh no!
So then we went to the town clerk's office
In
and could not get a fishing license for her.
Delaware?
No, in Johnson City.
Oh, well, you were in the wrong city.
So then I told her, I said, not to worry. I have never run into a game warden down there in my life.
That's right.
So we proceeded to go down, and we went trout fishing, and we started at the bridge just below the cemetery, and we started fishing up through there, and they were hitting like mad.
Serious.
Yes.
On,
Right, Shell?
on.
Oh yeah, John.
Worms.
Oh, worms do it every time.
But we were catching so many trout. Yeah, I can't believe it. We didn't even get up to Bob Bryden's house. And all of a sudden,
Coder Brook coming in.
yeah, Shelly tapped me on the shoulder. And she says,
"Who's that guy?"
Who's this guy coming down through the field? Honest to God, this happened. And I turn around, and here comes the game warden down through the field.
And
And
he
he-
was this tall. He was 10
Really?
feet tall. He was.
Yeah, you needed a gun for that guy.
And he was good looking too, right?
I don't remember that. Who cares?
But he came down, and he said, nice day, you having a good time, all that kind of stuff. He was very cordial. And he said, well, while I'm here, I might as well ask you for your fishing license. So I immediately responded and said, look, we went here, we tried to get her a fishing license, and we were to no avail.
Yeah, I have one, but
Yeah, I do, and I showed her.
would she have a rod in her hand?
Oh yeah, she was.
There's your problem.
She was bragging about all the fish she
Matter
caught.
of fact, she was catching some trout. She good casting, man, underneath the bushes.
Well, good teacher.
So anyway, I said, my wife does not have a fishing license. I said we tried. I explained to him what we did, and I said to him, I said, do you have any idea where we can get a fishing license around here? He says, oh yeah, and it was right down at Russell's store.
That's right.
He says they sell them down at Russell's store. I don't know if it was Russell's store back then.
Well, back then they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, I said, oh, that's great. I said, would you mind taking her down there?
Oh my God.
Really? Right? I said, would you mind taking her
Now
down there?
you got a lot of hair on your head.
That should have
And he did.
been dear.
And what'd you do?
She walked. I kept fishing. He took her down with his squad car down to Russell's store, got her a fishing license, right? And came back, and I kept fishing.
Oh my God.
So you owe one.
Did you know Ronnie Brooks?
Never knew Ronnie Brooks.
I worked with him at General
GE.
Electric. And Ronnie Brooks was a great trout fisherman.
How'd he hold his rod?
He's lefty,
He always held his rod up like
way
this.
high. And
When he
that's
fished, he
key.
held his rod up like
You know what? I know another guy. You
Yeah.
remember a guy, Don Diedrichson?
Yeah.
He told me the way to always catch fish is to keep that rod high.
That you
And I
feel
thought,
everything.
I can't do that.
But that's key.
But that's the same thing.
And the
as
other
he
thing-
said.
The other thing about doing that is you don't get snagged as much.
Yeah, no shit.
As soon-
Yeah, he
as soon
said
as you-
that. I can keep it coming right out of the snags.
So if you
But
feel it start to get
that's
snagged,
tiring
you
as
feel a
hell.
little Oh, it is.
He was
Yeah.
exaggerated. I never seen anybody hold it up that great.
Yeah.
He held his hands straight up in the air.
Yeah.
Hell,
wo-
fisherman does.
But it worked, man. It worked.
Well, those guys were. Yeah, they were good. I'm gonna tell you another stream. Going over the hill from Margaretville to where we're staying right now.
Where the clubhouse was?
Well, they're the
Yeah.
top end of the Platicille. New
Yeah,
Kingston.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
New
okay.
Kingston Bridge. Yeah.
Our father, Dad, Bob, Doyle Sr., we used to stop there and we would go down through the woods and there was a funnel that went under, it was like a, what they call culvert. Right in the middle of the woods. And it went underneath, and the stream came down, went through that culvert and came down, and both sides of it were willow trees. You couldn't fish the stream, but you could make a cast and get it up above and down and go down through that culvert. Remember the trout you used to catch out of that hole?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay,
You know
good.
what, I don't-
I'm not going to tell you yet.
Winter
No,
Hollow
and
Brook.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Winter Hollow Brook. So that's the Platicille top side.
Yeah.
Right after New Kingston, there's Winter Hollow Brook breaks out towards
Yeah, up the hill.
Lavina, sort of,
But anyway, the holes down there, Dad had a spot that there was a culvert. The stream went through a culvert, and there was.
You see, I don't remember this at all, you, Rick?
I'd have to take you in and show it to you.
You'd never find it.
How many years you gonna wait?
I've never wanted to do this, but now we're
Wow.
consulting me. But the trout.
Look, it's all on tape now, you know.
The trout we used to take out of there. Maybe Dad liked me better than he did both of you.
No, I just knew if you missed it, you could finger it.
No, the trout we caught out of there, and I took Barney Zimmer's son there one day.
Oh, take Barney's son.
You wouldn't take us.
Not either one of your
This is
goddamn brothers.
Godchild. This is Godchild.
Okay.
And just below this culvert I'm talking about, which is in the middle of the woods, you wouldn't know it was there.
Well, we're not even sure we know where the stream
Just
is.
below that, there was a bend in the stream, and there was a huge rock there in a big hole.
But you're saying it went through a culvert and you threw your worm out on one side and it came out the other side? Is that the same thing you were talking about before?
You used to fish above it and let the worm go down in it, and whoop.
The fish were inside the culvert?
No, they were actually below it, but the only way you could fish the hole below the culvert was to go through the culvert.
Okay. How long was the culvert?
What size of your pecker?
Right.
No, it wasn't a long culvert. No.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I hope not.
But just below it, there was the stream made a bend like this, and there was a big boulder. And I can't believe you don't remember this spot. I think you've been down there.
I don't think I know I've never been.
But I
Have you
Fished every inch of that place, and
I
can't
fished
give
from
it
a
exactly
town all the way up to the
Top of the
farmers, where you wouldn't go any further.
I took David Zimmer down there
You
one
mean
day.
from New Kingston?
Yeah.
All the way up to where?
All the way up to the farm has where the road crosses the farm, and then you get above there. There's not a lot of water. I mean, it's,
No, there's not. Yeah, we're not out
There's
of.
pools and
Are
stuff.
there? I didn't go past the farm, certainly.
All right, you know what? You're gonna prove it to me this year.
Well, there might not be a culvert there anymore.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's gone.
This is
Yeah, you never know.
40 years. I mean,
But
So we're gonna get down there and there's gonna be no cover. You're gonna say, "I know this is the right place."
yeah, I know.
but I used to go down there, and you would catch 10 to 12 inch fish on every cast.
16 to 18 inch trout.
Well, you know,
Not every
some
cast.
exaggerate.
In the same stream he's talking about.
Yeah,
No, I'm serious.
same as.
And you started at New Kingston.
Did you catch
That's
him there
fantastic
too?
up through there.
Yeah, that's
Oh, that's
Really?
my dad would take me there when the fishing wasn't doing anything.
You know, I
what were you
never
catching?
fished that
You're
stream.
catching what? 6 to 8 inch?
No,
It's
10
it's
to
bigger than
12
you think up
inch
here.
10 to
above
12.
Kingston. It's nice.
But
What's
when
the
I'm
beautiful
telling you,
woods?
It's beautiful.
when I fished it, we caught 16 to 18 inch trout.
okay.
Big trout.
Yeah.
And the color, you know how the Platicille is?
Perfect.
That type of color. And I had Barney Zimmer's son, David, in there. And I had
Well, I'm
a
glad
hold
you had
of
all these people there, John, because you never had me in there.
I had a hold of that. It was probably an 18 incher. And he ran into the middle of the stream to try to grab it. Here I am trying
Trying to finesse it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who ran?
David Zimmer.
I think he's still running.
I hope so. So there you are.
Okay.
Another little
That
stream
took an hour,
that nobody knows where it is.
including you.
Yeah, everybody knows.
And after all this discussion, nobody's going to ever find out either.
Yeah.
No, I'd like to
It's got to
relive
be an
that.
early season stream.
No, I'm telling you, those holes are still there.
All right, if they're still there, then.
Yep.
But still, it's still.
And my father fished them. That's the whole.
Well, and so did your cousin and then your uncle and your nephew and
Except for
everybody
your
else.
brothers.
But not your brother.
I swore I had Rick there before.
You might have.
Yeah.
Don't give in now.
All right.
So we hereby end the first chapter, The Early Days of the Bob Dwyer Fishing Club Diaries. We'd like to thank the many contributors to this diary, and we hope that we will get further contributions to the early days from other members as we continue to pursue chronicling our BDFC history. Thank you.